Some would say that you had an opportunity to listen to young protesters who were out on the streets in Sri Lanka and you squandered it. You claimed to be a, quote, friend of the people, you said. But within hours...
Conquer the world after A-levels. Join IIT. Register now.
Of becoming president in the summer of 2022, you called in the military, you told them to do, quote, whatever is necessary to restore order, and then they violently cracked down on protesters. How is bringing in the military being a friend of the people?
No one disregarded the views of the young people. When a president is appointed by parliament, whether I got elected or my opponent, you had to restore order. What will you do if the parliament is being taken over by a mob here? If a mob walks into the parliament, is that democracy or not?
I mean, Amnesty International say that outside of your office, 944 tear gas grenades were used by police against protesters.
Look,
30 people were injured, one protester was reported dead.
Amnesty International is discredited in our part of the world because they take different. Some of them are laughing here. Yes, I
mean, Amnesty tends to be discredited in countries that have human rights abuses.
I will tell you.
Please.
These were a group of people who killed one member of parliament. They nearly killed another member of parliament who was a major opponent of Gotabaya Rajapaksa and called for his resignation. They burnt a large number of houses. They came and took over Colombo. They attacked parliament.
The European Union says there was unnecessary violence against protesters in Sri Lanka, the unwarranted use of force against peaceful demonstrators.
The European Union had funded some other agencies and they called for my resignation. The same union thereafter praised me as the man who took Sri Lanka out of economic crisis. Look,
that kind of undermines your argument. You like it when they praise you, but not when they criticize you.
I don't like them when they play.
You just quoted them praising you. I got another one for you. You made your answer. I got another one. You don't like the EU, you don't like Amnesty. UN human rights experts condemn the extensive, prolonged, repeated use of state emergency measures to crack down on peaceful protesters.
I'm sorry, I like
UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Look, I like the EU.
You don't like the UN?
I did not talk about the UN.
Well, I quoted the UN to you. You're still talking about the EU. We moved on from the EU.
Look, you finish everything you want to say about the UN, the League of Nations, the British Commonwealth, and then tell me after that I will answer.
Okay.
I have been in politics before you were born.
I know. I think I said that. I mean, some might say that's part of the problem. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. You don't like the EU, you don't like the UN, you don't like Amnesty. So let me ask you about... Am I allowed to ask a question?
No, I wanted to correct one thing. I didn't say I don't like the EU.
Okay.
But we have now come to a stage in the world...
Okay. We cannot spend all night discussing your views of the EU.
Okay, then... Okay.
Let me ask you about... You made it clear. You reject all of these groups.
If you don't want me, I'm prepared to leave. If you say all you want to say, and when you finish, I'll give you 10 minutes, and then give me 10 minutes to reply.
Unfortunately, we don't have 10 minutes for each answer, otherwise we'll be here all night. But let me ask you this. Let me ask you this.
If I'm not dancing to your tune, I can leave. Maybe.
Okay, well, we appreciate you flying here for this, even though you want to leave in the first 5 minutes. But let me ask you this. When you delayed Sri Lanka's local elections in 2023, the Supreme Court said that your actions resulted in the infringement of fundamental rights of the Constitution due to arbitrary and unlawful conduct. You were a president picked by the parliament, not by the people, and you were so keen to avoid losing local elections that you just completely violated your own constitution. It's almost Trumpian.
We could not hold elections because we had no money. It was agreed by all the parties that I will have the presidential election and the parliamentary elections in 2024. And kindly remember, this case was filed in Supreme Court in 2023. The Supreme Court dragged that case out and they said, okay, you have violated fundamental rights. By that time, there were no elections. We had stuck to it. We all wanted to get out of this mess. And that's why we did that.
The Supreme Court, can I speak? The Supreme Court said you did have funds in the budget that were allocated for it, and you still didn't hold the election. You say you had no money, but you had enough money to attend the Queen's funeral here in the UK in September 2022. You went to the Japanese Prime Minister's funeral in Japan. You made a lot of state visits, but you had no money for elections.
Queen's funeral and Japanese Prime Minister's funeral was in 2022.
Yeah.
This was for 2023. You know, our financial years run from January 1st to December 31st. And I had to come. I wanted to come. I was a subject of Her Majesty Elizabeth II, the Queen of Ceylon. She was the most popular figure that we had. Now you're telling me don't come to the Queen's funeral.
No, I'm saying you should not have violated the Constitution and held elections.
I didn't violate the Constitution by coming to the funeral.
The Supreme Court said you violated the Constitution.
No, they didn't say. The Supreme Court could have given their rulings if they wanted in 2023.
So, okay.
They gave the ruling
audience very much understands what I said. You can distract all you want. Okay, let's talk about the protests in 2022.
Don't lose your temper.
You became president.
Don't lose your temper.
I mean, only one of us has so far threatened to walk out.